Nicole Espinoza started her real estate career in 2009 with lenders in foreclosures. During her work, she noticed many of the affected families had little to no information to prevent it. That's when Nicole decided to do something about it and get into short sales. Since, she's saved thousands of homeowners from foreclosure. Nicole is a single, hardworking mom of two. She's the best-selling author of Short Sales Uncensored and the founder of Short Sale Queen. Now she's ready to share her secrets with the world, the good, the bad, and the ugly in entrepreneurship, and her journey to success. Here's your host of Entrepreneurship #Uncensored with Nicole Espinoza.
All right, welcome. So excited to be here. First episode, Entrepreneurship, I'm going to get this right, #Uncensored. And this is our first show, and of course, appropriate, I'm bringing Stephanie Parks, my operations manager, to join me today. I wish we had like the sound effects, like the clapping and all that. But I'm so excited because a lot of the times on our channel and on the YouTube channel and in the Facebook group, it's mostly about short sales. So today, and with this podcast, every week, I want to bring someone on that can talk about their journey, that can talk about the good, like the intro said, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because entrepreneurship's hard. Like having your own business is hard, and it can be really defeating to see people's highlight reels on Facebook, right? On social media.
They all look good.
Everybody looks perfect, right? And so for me, I feel like this is so important, and I'm so passionate about that. And we talk about that all the time, of trying to be as authentic as possible, because we've all been there. We've all failed, and failing forward is, something that I say that a lot. So welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to just dive right in, because I know this show's about 30 minutes every week. So tell me, I want to hear your story, right? I want everyone to know who Stephanie Parks is. Just give me a brief intro of your history before we met, and then we'll tell them our story and what we did with the Short Sale Queen, but what you did at your previous company and how you were running things virtually.
So I graduated in 2005 from the University of North Texas with a bachelor's degree in real estate. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. I actually did not do real estate right after. I actually traveled the world selling garden art with a startup company that did really well. And I was kind of over that and wanted to get back into real estate. Yeah. So I started working with a company it was a small company, but it was a big company. So we did a lot of volume. I started with them, I believe, in 2006.
So what kind of volume did you guys do? What do the numbers look like?
Well, we were doing about 70 short sales a month. So
that's
that was
a lot.
during right around the crash, the beginning of the crash, and then so I was managing 70 short sales a month, and also about 40 rentals a month.
So I'm going to stop you right there, because you are definitely a unicorn. And I remember when I first talked to you, and I know we'll get into that, but when I first talked to you, I was like, I don't know anybody else that does this, so I'm going to just fact check you real quick and make sure you know what you're talking about. Yeah. And that, I think, is, what also obviously made a really good fit for us, and of us coming together, because you had that experience. And there's not, besides us, right, the Short Sale Queen, our company, but besides that, I don't know any companies that do it on a high level like that.
No.
So you were doing 70 transactions a month.
Yeah, and I just thought that was kind of normal. I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
That back in 2008, 2009, they were just flooding in. And like I said, we had one acquisitions person, and they were just flowing in. So we were doing a high volume. We were also doing the rentals and the closings. I handled it from A to Z. Basically, when the acquisitions team got it in, I'd close it all the way through, short sale negotiations, everything. So I was self-taught in a lot of stuff. Yeah. We didn't have a good CRM back then, which is, what is it called?
Infusionsoft?
Yeah, but whatever the CRM is called. Customer Relationship Management.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, that. So we didn't have one of those.
They can Google the acronym. You don't need to break it down. It's
fine. So we didn't have one at the beginning, and then kind of towards the end of me working there, we got Infusionsoft. And so I got to learn the ropes of Infusionsoft and understand how systems in the back can, do all this stuff for you, and you don't have to hire extra employees to, sit there and type an email out.
So for me, obviously I was on the other end of it, And when me and you joined forces, you had already come from a company that you were running things virtually. And for me,
Yes.
I couldn't even wrap my brain around not going to listing appointments anymore.
Yes,
Do you remember?
yes.
You're like, okay, Nicole, that's fine. Eventually, you're going to get tired of it as we
Yes.
started scaling. So I kind of want you to talk, quickly about that, because
Okay.
I think that's really important, because there's a lot of, business owners that are trying to scale and
Yes.
figure out how to manage, and that's not easy, because it's not face to
No.
face. It's all online.
You definitely have to have systems in place. So Nicole had her notebook, and anytime someone would call, she would write a lead in her
No,
notebook.
we're talking about you, not me. I'm just kidding.
It's about you too. So she would write a lead in her notebook, and I was like, wow, like, what, did you put that lead in the system? Like, did you remember doing that? She's
Like, no, I remember everything. What are you talking about, Stephanie?
Right.
Like, don't question me. I'm good.
And she was, like, she remembered everything. She knew everything like the back of her hand. But then when you started getting, like, 60, 70 leads in there,
Yeah.
I'm like, how's that person doing? Oh, who's that?
And that's
so
honestly
got hard.
what, for me, it was just this game changer in the way that I thought. Because, we go back to, we've done shows before and talking about integrator. I'm big on rocket fuel, right? Integrator
Yeah.
and the visionary. And I didn't have an integrator, right? So for
Right.
me as a visionary, I'm like looking at, okay, I'm just trying to get it done. I'm in sales.
Yes.
I'm trying to get it done. And I
Yes.
remember, and that's why I'm excited to have from your perspective, because I always talk about you and our
Yeah.
story from mine. So continue, because I totally interrupt you.
Oh,
I
no,
had to
you're
say
good.
that.
So, I'll go back, though, for
Okay.
how we met.
Yes.
So had been working for the same company for about 10 years, and I've never ever seen a job ad on Facebook.
Which, that's a tip right there, because
Yeah.
I've gotten the best, obviously, hires from Facebook.
Like, never seen a job ad on Facebook. And I'd followed her just because I wanted to see what other people in the industry were doing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, a job ad. This girl, I think she knows what she's talking about. Like,
Maybe. Yeah.
she's her videos, like, Anyway, so I applied for the job simply being nosy because it was for an admin. And I was like, she's not going to want to pay me admin, but let's be nosy. So I filled out the application. She immediately called me, and we had a really good conversation. And she was like, well, actually, I don't just need an admin. I actually need an office manager, someone kind of to run everything. And I was like, oh, now you have my attention.
Yeah.
So we set up a interview that Friday.
And the interview was basically us drilling each other.
Yeah, to see how much we knew. Like, because I didn't want to work for somebody that didn't know.
Right, and I was like,
No.
okay, are you full of shit or not?
Right.
Like, everybody in the industry is like, oh, we do short sales, but, like, come on,
Like,
So,
yeah. Yeah, you could not 2 or 3, like,
yeah, like,
hundreds.
you had to do it on a high level.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, continue.
So then, yeah, we drove back and forth. And then I think the next day or that same day, you called me and offered me the job.
Oh, yeah, I knew it. I think the biggest thing was when me and you were sitting down and talking, you just offered this whole other perspective of, I loved the fact that you were, like, day one picking it apart. And I
Yeah.
got so excited. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
because that's what I needed. I needed that other perspective. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of times, entrepreneurs, they sit here and they think that they're good at sales. They think that because they are doing a good job, that instantly they should have a team.
Right.
And it's just a whole other world when you think about scaling and you think about
Yes.
hiring all these people on your organization.
Yeah, because I'm sure you were terrified. Like, okay, I mean,
This was my baby. Of course
yeah.
I was terrified.
So you probably had, the $10, $15 an hour employees. So
Yep.
it was probably hard to take that big step. To like,
Right.
do I trust her?
You
like,
were my first big girl hire.
Yeah.
For sure. You were definitely my first big girl hire.
Yeah.
That was definitely a huge leap. But, before, just to give context to the people listening, if they haven't heard the story, I fired everyone.
Yep.
And Nicole style, I was like, I'm done. Like, I need to start all over.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was managing 30 to 40 listings a month. And I told her, I said, hey, this is my vision. I know what I'm capable of. I just can't get there.
Yeah.
And so for Stephanie, like, it was that key integrator that I needed in my organization to be able to take me to that point. Not that I didn't have the ability to do it myself. It's just I'm only one person.
Right.
And you made me rethink everything. Like, okay, and like I remember you used to say all the time, like, anything you do more than once or twice a day,
Automate it.
how can we automate it?
Yes,
How can we put
always.
a system in place? And now I'm like delegating queen. Like,
Right.
before I
Yes.
didn't want to let go of anything. Now I'm like, wait, Stephanie, can you create something for that, please? Thank
Yes.
you.
I click a button and it's like,
This
automated.
is amazing. Yeah. And it's a game changer. And especially with Infusionsoft, like, we literally picked apart everything. Like
Yes.
the first couple weeks, it was just like, okay, this is how I do it. This is how you do it. How do we perfect what's already in place?
Right. Yes. And like just being a good, like also on top of that, being a good boss to your employees. Like I wanted to make sure we jived too.
Yeah, of course.
Like you're
Life's
9
too
years
short.
younger than me. So I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be
throw
the
that
old,
in there.
I'm going to be the old lady here. But she's has an old soul, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you have an old soul. Like you don't act like 30 or 20 or anything like that. So, but like totally jives. She totally keeps me young. We listen to all that young music, and so she definitely keeps me young, which I appreciate.
But I think going back to what you were saying with culture, I think that's everything.
Yes.
And I think people underestimate how vital that is for the organization, because you cannot train people to care.
No,
like you can't.
You cannot.
And, you know, I felt like I always had a good culture, but I wasn't a good leader. And I wasn't identifying, like, people, their capabilities. I mean, you talk about, like, the major things, like what I see with people failing when it comes to hiring, or just what I did wrong, was, you know, they liked me, they liked, you know, the culture, they liked all of that, but they didn't have the ability to do the job.
They wouldn't get up
So
at
they weren't
midnight
capable.
to send a closing package or something.
Right, like somebody, if you're looking to hire in your organization, you need someone that's going to take ownership. You need someone that's going to run with it and just be grateful for that opportunity. And I feel like after me and you joined forces and you started really implementing those systems, then we started going through, oh man, you could talk about the admins we did go through.
Yes.
And finally, like, getting to this point, and that's why I always have so much gratitude just to be here, because we have an awesome team. Like, the people in our organization, like, they are grateful for the opportunity.
Yes.
They are just awesome human beings. They all care, and they work so hard for our clients.
And they want to be there every day.
Yeah, which is so important.
It's a fun environment. We laugh. We have, you know, personal talks and too, so it's not all business. So I think that's super important, you know, when you run an organization, to make it personal as well. So they're there more than they're with their family. So it's got to be
and I think
exciting.
too, like, I want you to talk about, just as you came over to the Short Sale Queen, the systems that we put in place and the accountability, because me and you have had this, like, for the last couple years, because you're 2 years that now she's been with me officially.
Yes, officially 2 years.
Feels like forever, but it's only been 2 years. And I think that's important, because people talk about systems, right? That's like the hot word when you're talking about running a business. But what about the accountability? And we've crashed and burned several times with employees where we're like, oh, you don't think like us, so you didn't do it.
Right. Yes, just following up. Like, so our systems, and Infusionsoft is what we've used. And so I have systems in place that if you send an email out or tag a file with something, the system's going to automatically follow up with the customer, maybe with the person who referred the lead, and also with the person who created that note. And so it follows up with all parties, so nothing gets lost. So that's huge. Like, help me with my shortsale.com. So that's part of Infusionsoft. If people go there to submit their leads, all of that gets entered into our systems. And our systems do all the work. Send text messages, emails, notifies everybody in the company that needs to know. Once we get, like, the seller's paperwork back and they're like a client, then we have another system that starts for another department. And so it kind of goes through the system very smoothly. Of course, I've had to change things a bunch.
Every day.
Yeah, I mean, we're still changing every day.
Yeah.
Because the volume went from here to here, like, you know, really fast.
Yeah, we were at, let's see, 2018, right? Was when you came over. And we were at, like, I think when you first came over, we were like 30-something a month, right? 30 files a month that I was managing myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we now have 100.
A little over 100.
Little over 100 listings a month, which is incredible. I mean, it's a lot of humans.
Yeah,
a
because you
lot
got
of
the
human
seller,
beings.
seller's husband that won't, you know, follow.
Cooperate.
And then
that's
you
not
got the
specific
referral.
or anything. So
Yeah, sorry. Divorce issues, like, going on, like, with sellers. Like, yeah, the divorce people are the hardest when it comes to short sales.
Yeah, and
FYI.
then, you know, COVID, we got a bunch of divorces now. So there's that.
Right. Oh, dear. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think it's definitely, you know, that was definitely a game changer, because when you go back to my notebook, I always say that story when I'm speaking about how that changed my perspective because
Yeah.
I was always the person and I could not get over myself.
You had to learn to release it.
Right,
Like,
but it was so hard for me
somebody
because
else
I'm
can
like,
do this.
what are you
Yeah.
talking about? I have to have the conversation. I have to build rapport. I have to
Yeah.
be, the person that talks to the client. And it wasn't like an ego thing. It was just more of like, I want to make sure it's done the way that it's supposed to do
Right.
because I had this formula that worked. And I feel like you slowly but surely like picked away at like my habits of like, okay, Nicole, it was first the notebook where I used to write down the leads because then I could retain the information. And then eventually I remember one day it was like, I got a lead from Facebook, I got a lead from Instagram, I got a lead from this, and I was like, oh my God, I can't handle this. And I had dropped the ball and I had so much anxiety over it. And you're like, okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
And we created the helpmewithmyshortsale.com where it goes, like you said, right into our system,
Yep.
right into our CRM. It immediately tags, the people that are referring it. So it's literally set up.
Yeah.
And that's like 10 freaking steps that it took away from
Yes.
me. 10
Yes.
steps because they also get confirmation that we got it.
Yep.
And so for me, it was just like, okay, that was amazing. And then the last thing I had to give up was the listing appointments.
Yeah.
And that was, really hard because.
Well, she was driving all over DFW
gosh.
to, meet with clients. And I'm like, well, because the company I worked for before, I never met one client. I never went to one house. We bought houses virtually, even back in 2007, 2008. So I was definitely used to the virtual side of it, but she was completely used to they have to see me because they have to understand how serious we are and blah, blah, blah.
Well,
But-
and I think running a company virtually definitely has challenges of just rapport. And we talk about this all the time in the team meetings that if you guys are, running and people have had to adapt with COVID, to do this.
So it's much more
Right,
normal.
now it's more normal, but the new normal. But before that, it was like, okay, how do we come across and build rapport with you, and you understand our value if we've never met you? And I
Right.
couldn't wrap my brain around it because I'm a relationship person, so I'm like, no. Once I'm sitting down with you in your living room for an hour, like you're my client for life.
Yes.
And then we had to figure out like, how do we still establish that relationship, maintain the relationship, and take it all the way to closing?
And that's
it's
systems
still a
and
struggle,
processes.
and it's
Yes.
still a struggle. But yes, 100%. I mean, it's the constant communication.
Follow up content. Like Nicole does a ton of videos, and so I put those videos so they can get to know us on their emails, so they can just click and be like, oh, okay, and they can dive deep into the rabbit hole of who Nicole Espinosa is, or I'm on some of them, so they'll know who our company is and they'll feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
And I think for people that are watching that are wanting to do that with their business, like what would be like the best advice you could give them as far as, your perspective of what we've done?
Just get started.
Take action. There you go.
I do some of the mentorship classes with the Infusionsoft, and a lot of them are just like, whoa, this is a lot,
Yeah. And it
This
is. I mean, I'm
great.
not even going to pretend like I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's a Stephanie question. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
They're like,
not
this is a lot of information, but it's a lot, and they always leave so excited.
Yeah.
Because wow, like I didn't know a system or software could do this much.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just the automation of everything is huge. Like, you can save yourself so much money on extra employees that are just sending emails and text messages and follow up. Like,
Yeah.
it literally can be a system. And obviously, you still want people to call and have that relationship, but you don't have to have as many people.
Well, I think the biggest thing is utilizing the technology to make it easy.
Yeah.
So that when people do call us, we're set up for success.
Right.
Because
Dude,
that's
you
what
can-
people want. They want convenience, right? And
Oh,
as
yes.
technology changes the industry in general, like we have to be in a place like that. We have to
Right.
be available. We have to do it. And obviously there's only one or two of us
Right.
where we can't do everything.
Right. Yes.
And so, going into that, I feel like that was huge because even pre-COVID,
Yeah.
we were going to hire. I mean, and this is not even, I feel like even though we're here, we're at over 100 listings a month, like we're just still at the beginning, it feels like. And I feel
we're
like
just getting started.
a lot of people are like, oh, wow, like you've made it or whatever. You're like, calls in the office. I'm like, no.
Like, we are literally just getting started. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we have so much room. I mean, there's always growth, but we do have so much more room to help so many more people, which I love because
Yeah.
it's just a system. And another point on that. So if you're doing anything once or twice, or once, 2 times or more, ask yourself, can you make a video that can help train someone else? So anytime I do something, more than twice, I make a video of it. We use Loom, right? Yeah.
Loom, yep.
Loom, and it records the screen and it records yourself.
Yeah.
So I teach them exactly what to do. So we have new hires. I don't have to sit down with them for days and days and days. I'm literally like, here, watch this watch this video. Try it yourself, and when you have questions, let me know. I'm also really big on letting employees fail, because I think that's how they learn. So I say, okay, now that you watch this video, I want you to go do this, like if it's a HUD, or I don't know if you know, anyways, something, a contract or something. And then I can go over with them what they did wrong, and then correct them. And they learned so much better that way.
And if you guys are watching and you guys have questions, leave comments, and
we'll come back and answer.
We'll circle back with it before the show ends, and hopefully we can address those, because this is definitely a great opportunity to talk to someone like that has already built it out, and questions you have for Stephanie specifically or myself. But yeah, so going back to what you were saying, like that's huge. Like Loom was a huge thing for us for training. I think another thing to feed off what you're saying, when training for us looked so different, especially like I remember Gary Keller talks about with the millionaire real estate agent, Keller Williams or whatever. He talks about how when he was trying to step away from being a CEO, how he had someone following him around every day because he could not verbalize what he did. And like for me, that resonated so much. And me and you had so many conversations of like, no, if I'm going to stop talking to the leads, like they need to be able to say this, this, and this.
Yes.
And it was documenting like how many times you're like, hey, let's record the calls so we can use it for training, and really setting up your employees for success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's really what it's about, because that was another huge thing that I did wrong, because we're like, sink or swim. How many times say that?
Sink or swim.
Sink or swim. Good luck. Good luck keeping up with us. And I think that's huge, because it just brought so much like relief for that person, that individual. And now, I mean, that was a game changer. Like, shout out Selena is phenomenal, and she does the leads now. And as soon as you refer something over, she's on it. And I remember I did all of the training videos for her. I, did phone calls where I was talking to clients so she could see how I handled those objections. Right. And I think that's really important, because when you're naturally good at something, it's hard to verbalize like, this is how I do it, because you just do it.
Right.
And so when you are thinking about hiring, having that before they go into it is so important.
Yeah, and we run, like our girls come into the office, most of them. There's one negotiator that's remote, and then we have a couple VAs that, are in the
virtual assistants,
Philippines or El Salvador. And so training them obviously is extra hard, which is what I used to do at the old company as well. So, but I didn't have Loom, which was, I was like, I just had to do everything over the phone. They had to call, three-way with me. But having everything recorded and putting systems in place so you can just go tie a bow around it and like, here's your training is huge.
And most importantly, you're setting them up for success to do it the way that you want. Yeah. Because, it's easy to assume like, hey, I thought you would get this done. Like for me, I'm very much here it is. And I'm going to walk away, and I'm not going to remember until shit hits the fan, or, unless you've come to me and asked me. And people aren't wired that way. Like when, you have to remember they're employees for a reason. So when they're looking, when they're trying to work for you, like you have to set them up for success.
Yeah. We both cannot handle employees that we have to micromanage. Like I don't want to micromanage anybody. I don't.
No.
So if
life
I
is
have
too short.
Life
is too freaking short.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to definitely have an ownership, ownership of the tasks, ownership of their position, but that's a lot of culture and empowering them to do that. I mean, I remember the first time that I actually stepped out of, remember when I went to Shield Maiden, I went to this event, and it was the first time that I wasn't 100% like, hey, what's going on? And I remember what all y'all's feedback was. It was, hey, we took care of it. We stepped up. We took care of it.
She was like, she came back. She was like, nothing burned down. Like,
you're still
everybody
standing.
made it without me.
You guys survived without me? What? you know? And once I got over that, no, it was the best feeling ever. It was so
Yes.
freeing because I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
You make good hire choices. Like that's
But that's where
how-
everybody needs to get to, right? That's the goal. Like, we don't want to be slaves to the job. We, as entrepreneurs, like, we have to set systems in place so that we can step away.
And you
it's
went
not
through 8 to
chaos.
10 years of failing, you know?
I mean, yeah. I mean,
So-
I have a lot of experience in that over what we're doing now.
Yes.
Way more experience in failing.
Yeah, so it
than
just took
actually
10
doing that
years
well.
to get to the
Only 10
success,
years.
but
It's okay.
It takes some people much longer or never. So
Or, yeah, I was like, or never. So there's that.
I think the big thing is Nicole took a huge leap on me, and I took a huge leap on her. I mean, I've been with the same company for over 10 years. So, you know, when God's in something, like, it's just going to work. And it just worked. And so I give all the glory to him.
Everything definitely did fall in place, and I think a lot of that had to be intentional. Of when we go back to intentional hiring, like
Yes.
knowing what you're looking for. I had been through so many people that it didn't work, that I understood, like, okay, if I'm going to do this next hire, like, this is what I need. So I can't believe it's been 30 minutes.
That was fast.
Yes. So we do have a question. I am relational as well. I know over time an online or virtual relationship can be built. How do you collapse timeframes virtually? So let me read that question again. I know over time an online or virtual relationship can be built. How do you collapse timeframes virtually? I think I'm trying to understand your question, Rich. I think you just mean, like, how can you establish that relationship when it's virtual? And I think, you know, it's very important for, you know, setting the expectations, you know, using the email and the text and all of that as, like, knowing that you're on it, but not forgetting to be a human being. And I always we in the team meeting, we have that accountability, which we didn't even get to dive into because, oh my gosh, it's freaking 30 minutes already. But is the accountability is every morning in our team meetings, we're all like, hey, this is what we've got going on. And then if somebody doesn't, oh, what happened yesterday? It's accountability, and it's all of us.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, what's my show? Oh shit, you know, like this happened. And so I think it's really important to just don't lose that human aspect. Use technology to help streamline, but don't forget that these are real people. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and within Fusionsoft, and I'm sure lots of other CRMs, there are time frames you can put in, like delay timers. So you can set, like, wait a day, send another email, wait 3 days, or wait an hour and send a text. You can even send letters out, mail letters to them.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of stuff you can do for those time frames. I hope that's what you're talking about. If not, just ask more.
Okay. All right. So we have to wrap up. This is, I can't believe how fast that this has gone. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week on the second episode, we're going to have Aaron Bevins from the Superhumans, and he's phenomenal. He's in San Antonio. I'll tag him here so you can see him, but he's going to be joining me in the studio, and we're going to talk about the business that he's built and the good, bad, all of it. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.